I sold my company shares to fund her dream business, believing in her vision more than my own. But she betrayed me by sleeping with the very client I helped her win. A man with charm, but no spine. Before watching the video, please tell us in the comments, which country are you watching from? My name is Nathan Cole, and I am 36 years old. For years, I thought loyalty was love, and love was partnership. But sometimes, the person you build your empire with is the same one waiting to burn it down. When I met Vanessa, she wasn't just beautiful, she was ambitious. Together, we built our lives like a perfect strategy. I handled the business deals while she handled the clients. People called us a power couple. Every success felt shared, every challenge conquered together. I thought nothing could shake that foundation. When she suggested starting her own marketing branch, I didn't hesitate. I sold part of my shares in the company I'd built, investing everything into her dream. I wanted her to feel equal, to know her husband believed in her potential. We worked side by side, late nights, endless coffee, building something real, or at least that's what I believed. Our company grew fast. Clients loved her energy, her confidence, her ability to charm anyone in a room. I was proud, until pride turned into distance. Vanessa started handling deals without me, taking meetings alone, dismissing my advice. "Don't worry," she'd say. "I've got this." And I believed her, because trust was second nature to me. We became the envy of everyone we knew. Success, love, power. On social media, we looked perfect, but behind closed doors, the spark began to fade. She started staying late at the office more often. At first, I thought it was dedication. Later, I realized it was detachment. Still, I kept supporting her. I told myself it was just stress, just the pressure of running a business. I didn't see the subtle signs, the way her phone never left her side, the way she smiled at texts she wouldn't show me. I didn't question her, because love makes you blind to betrayal until it's staring you in the face. We were invited to a gala celebrating new entrepreneurs. I watched her from across the room, glowing under the lights, surrounded by clients and admirers. That night, she introduced me to Brandon Hale, a new client with slick confidence and fake charm. He shook my hand like a man who'd already taken something that wasn't his. I didn't know it then, but that handshake was the start of my undoing. Vanessa called Brandon her biggest opportunity. I smiled, proud that her hard work was paying off. I didn't realize she was already his, not just in business, but in ways I couldn't imagine. Love blinds you, success distracts you, and trust destroys you, if placed in the wrong hands. That night, as we drove home, she held my hand, thanking me for believing in her. I remember thinking how lucky I was. I had no idea the woman beside me was already gone. Her loyalty traded for temptation and profit. After the gala, Vanessa couldn't stop talking about Brandon Hale. He was visionary, dynamic, and connected. Every conversation somehow circled back to him. At first, I didn't think much of it. Business partners often get close. But soon, the way she said his name began to sound different. Too soft, too personal. Brandon owned a chain of luxury lifestyle companies and had deep pockets. When he offered Vanessa an exclusive marketing contract, she was thrilled. "This could double our profits in a year," she said, her eyes sparkling. I smiled, proud of her, proud of us. She had no idea how much I'd already sacrificed to make this possible. The contract was huge. I helped her prepare every presentation, draft every proposal. Late nights turned into early mornings, and I did everything I could to make sure she succeeded. I wanted her to win, to prove that my belief in her wasn't misplaced. But as she grew closer to success, she drifted further from me. Her phone started buzzing at odd hours. When I'd ask who it was, she'd say, "Just Brandon, finalizing details." Sometimes she'd step outside to take his calls, her voice quiet but playful. "You wouldn't understand business talk?" She'd joke when I questioned her. I told myself I was overthinking it. After all, she was my wife, my partner. Weeks later, she came home glowing. "Brandon wants to sign the deal next week," she said, throwing her arms around me. "We did it." I hugged her back, but something in my chest tightened. She said, "we," but I could feel the distance behind the word. The night before the signing, she stayed out late. "He wants to go over last-minute terms," she said. "I'll be home soon." I nodded, forcing a smile. Midnight came and went. By 2 in the morning, I stopped waiting. When she finally returned, her hair was messy, her perfume faded. "Don't look at me like that," she said coldly. "You're being paranoid again." The next morning, she acted as if nothing had happened. Dressed in her best suit, she kissed my cheek before heading to the office. I told her I'd meet her there to witness the signing. She froze for a second, just long enough for me to see the guilt flash in her eyes. "It's fine," she said quickly. "It's just a small client thing." I watched her drive off, feeling a storm brewing inside me. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to trust her. But something in my gut told me the truth was already hiding in plain sight. That day, I stood outside her office and saw them through the glass. Vanessa leaning close to Brandon, smiling, her hand resting on his arm as she signed the papers. The deal was sealed, not just in ink, but in betrayal. She thought it was her perfect deal. She didn't know it would soon become mine. A few nights after the signing, Vanessa came, home late again. She said the contract had follow-up meetings, and she needed to finalize details with Brandon. Her excuses were polished, confident, and cold. I nodded, pretending to believe her. But inside, something in me had already snapped. I wasn't going to ask anymore. I was going to see. That evening, she fell asleep on the couch, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. I waited until her breathing softened, then carefully lifted it away. My heart pounded as I opened her messages. There it was. Dozens of texts from Brandon. None about business. "You looked incredible tonight. Next time, don't wear anything under that blazer. I can still taste your lipstick." My blood turned to ice. Every word felt like a knife. I scrolled further. Voice notes, late-night calls, photos from hotel rooms I didn't recognize. The timestamps matched her business trips. She wasn't working late. She was working him. My hands trembled as I set the phone down. I wanted to scream, to wake her, to demand an explanation. But something stronger than anger stopped me. Control. I realized if I lost my temper now, she'd twist it. Call me jealous, call me paranoid again. No, I would not give her that power. Not this time. Instead, I closed the phone and slipped it back into her hand. I went upstairs, lay awake, and stared at the ceiling. Every text, every smile she'd faked, every lie she'd told replayed in my head. But somewhere between the pain and the silence, a plan began to form. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She made coffee, kissed my cheek, and rushed out the door. I smiled and said, "Good luck today." My tone was calm, too calm, because now I wasn't the trusting husband anymore. I was the man she had underestimated. That day, I went through our business files. Every document, every signature, every client contract, and there it was. Brandon's account. Hidden payments labeled as consulting fees, all approved by Vanessa. Money that didn't belong to her. They weren't just betraying me personally, they were betraying me financially. I felt something new rising inside me. Not heartbreak, not sorrow, but clarity. She had built her empire on my trust, and now she'd use that trust to destroy me. But she didn't know one thing. I had built the contracts. I knew every clause, every loophole. And soon, I'd use those very words to end her career and their affair forever. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to fight. All I needed was patience, because when a liar thinks she's winning, that's when you let her dig her own grave. What would you do if someone you loved betrayed you like this? Comment below. I started with quiet observation, watching every move Vanessa made in business. Late nights at the office became evidence, not excuses anymore for me. I copied emails, saved files, and printed contracts she signed alone. Each document revealed tiny inconsistencies she assumed I would ignore. I traced payments labeled consulting back through multiple shell accounts. The money trail led to a Bahamas account under a false company. Vanessa had signed approvals with her own hand, and proud smile. Anger flared, but I kept calm to avoid playing into her hands. I knew the contracts contained clauses only I had written originally. Those clauses could be used to reverse ownership with precise legal wording. I consulted a lawyer quietly, explaining business irregularities without accusations. He confirmed loopholes I could lawfully enforce against fraudulent payments. My plan formed around patience, proof, and perfectly timed confrontation. I smiled at her in meetings while my heart prepared silent war. I invited Brandon to a celebratory dinner under the pretense of partnership growth. Vanessa arrived radiant, unaware I'd already planted seeds for exposure. I toasted to success, careful to sound warm and trusting. While drinks flowed, I subtly mentioned audit reviews and compliance checks. Brandon laughed, confident his charm could smooth any business concern. Vanessa squeezed his hand under the table, proud of their sway. I kept conversation light until they deferred to my leadership intentionally. Then I announced an impending full financial review starting next Monday. Their smiles faltered, showing a crack beneath their practiced, confident facades. I praised Vanessa publicly, then suggested tightening client payment transparency. Brandon protested softly, claiming his payments were routine and above board. I nodded, noting his evasive tone and shallow justification carefully. My lawyer friend began the audit discreetly the very next morning. Evidence mounted quietly as the company files revealed the full scheme. Vanessa kept smiling, believing her charm made her untouchable from consequence. She continued to arrange payments, oblivious to the web tightening around her. I collected copies of signed agreements, showing her explicit approvals and directives. Each signature tied her to decisions that now looked criminal under review. I never raised my voice, keeping my demeanor carefully unthreatening and calm. People trusted my steady presence while I quietly coordinated legal steps. Vanessa began sensing pressure, but misread it as ordinary corporate stress. Brandon started canceling meetings, his bravado slowly crumbling under scrutiny. One morning, Vanessa stormed into my office, demanding explanations with false bravado. I handed her a pile of documents showing the consulting payment trail. Her face drained color as she scanned every clearly incriminating line. She tried to speak, but legal counsel had already locked accounts and evidence. The trap closed gently, built on contracts she'd signed with eager hands. In the silence that followed, I realized revenge can be meticulous and patient. The morning of the presentation, Vanessa stood tall in her finest suit. She looked powerful, untouchable. I watched her from across the room, knowing she had no idea what was about to happen. She thought today was another victory, another step toward the empire she built on my back. But this time, the papers she was about to sign were written by me. The client meeting was held at our main office. Brandon arrived first, flashing his usual smug grin. Vanessa followed, confident and poised, greeting everyone with that same charm that once fooled me. "Let's make this official," she said, smiling across the table. I nodded, sliding the final contract toward her. "All that's left," I said smoothly, "is your signature." She didn't even read it. She trusted that I had finally forgiven her, that this was my way of showing faith in her leadership. With one quick motion, she signed her name on every line, laughing as she handed the pen to Brandon. He followed her lead, not even noticing the subtle change in the title clause, the one that made everything theirs, mine again. The room erupted in applause. Cameras flashed, reporters smiled, and Vanessa leaned over to whisper, "See, we did it." I smiled back, a calm satisfaction running through my veins. I'd done it all, not through anger, not through confrontation, but through precision. She had just transferred every asset, every client, and every account right back to me. After the meeting, she came over and kissed my cheek in front of everyone. "You're my rock, Nathan," she whispered. The irony nearly made me laugh. She walked out of the room glowing, proud of the power she thought she still held. But later that night, when she tried to access the company accounts, everything changed. Her passwords were revoked, her email shut down, and her business credit cards declined. She called me in a panic. "Nathan, what's going on?" she demanded. I replied evenly, "You signed the contract today, remember? The one that gave me full ownership of the company." There was silence, a long, trembling silence. Then a soft, broken whisper. You tricked me." I took a deep breath and said, "No, Vanessa. I just gave you what you gave me, exactly what I deserved." She came to the office the next morning, furious and desperate. Brandon was already there, pale-faced, realizing he had signed away his leverage too. He tried to threaten me, shouting about lawsuits and exposure. I just handed him a folder with his fake invoices. "You might want to call your lawyer," I said. "I already did." Vanessa's face turned white. Her empire was gone, not by force, but by her own hand. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I just walked out, leaving her and her lover to face the storm they'd created. That day, I learned something powerful. Revenge isn't about rage. It's about reclaiming your worth with calm precision and walking away stronger. The next morning, the fallout hit like thunder. News spread through the office faster than lightning. Employees whispered in corners, investors called non-stop, and Vanessa's name became poison. The woman who once strutted through meetings like a queen now sat in her office, staring at locked screens and frozen accounts. Every door that once opened for her was now closed by her own signature. I arrived at work calm and composed. She stormed toward me, her eyes red, her voice trembling between anger and fear. "How could you do this to me, Nathan?" she shouted. I met her gaze, steady and quiet. "How could you do this to us?" My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. The truth carried its own weight. She tried to spin the story, telling employees that it was just a paperwork issue. But the audit results were already public. Brandon's fraudulent transactions were exposed, and Vanessa's approval trail was undeniable. The clients she'd charmed for years pulled out instantly. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing, but not one call was from a friend. Later that afternoon, she followed me into my office. "Please, Nathan," she said softly now, her tone different, broken. "We can fix this together. I'll walk away from Brandon. I'll do anything you ask. Just don't destroy me." I looked at her, remembering every late night she'd spent working, every lie she'd told with a straight face. "You destroyed yourself, Vanessa," I said quietly. I just gave the truth a little push. Brandon tried to fight back, sending threats through his lawyers, but he didn't know that every shady transfer, every false invoice, every stolen dollar had been documented. Within weeks, his company was under investigation. He lost everything: his money, his reputation, and eventually, his freedom. As for Vanessa, she had to sell her car and her penthouse just to cover her legal fees. I didn't press criminal charges. I didn't need to. Watching her lose everything she'd betrayed me for was justice enough. She called me one night, crying so hard I could barely understand her words. "I loved you once," she said. I replied, "No, Vanessa, you loved control, and when you lost it, you lost me." After that, she stopped calling. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was peace. I poured my energy back into the company, rebuilding the brand under my name alone. Clients returned, stronger than before. My employees respected me not for revenge, but for restraint. One day, while clearing her old office, I found a framed photo of us from our first year together, smiling, hopeful, unaware. I stared at it for a while, then placed it face down in a drawer. Some memories belong in the past, buried with the lies that created them. Because sometimes revenge isn't loud. It's quiet, clean, and final. The kind that ends with a signature and silent. If you were in my place, would you forgive or walk away? Tell me in comments. When the storm finally passed, the silence that followed felt different. Not empty, but free. I walked into the office one morning, sunlight spilling through the windows, and realized something powerful. I had survived. Not just the betrayal, not just the loss, but the destruction of everything I once built with her. The company was mine again. Every client she'd stolen had come back, one by one. They didn't just trust my work, they trusted my integrity. People respect strength, but they remember calm. I had never screamed, never cursed, never begged. I let the truth do the talking, and now that truth was rebuilding my empire. I hired new people, hungry, honest, loyal. I worked alongside them every day, designing campaigns, closing deals, and setting new standards. The business grew faster than ever before. Investors called me the comeback story of the year. But for me, it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rebuilding the man I lost while loving the wrong woman. Vanessa's name became a whisper in the business world, a warning. Rumors spread that she'd lost everything, that Brandon had vanished overseas to escape his lawsuits, leaving her buried in debt. Some people expected me to celebrate. I didn't. I didn't need to. Her punishment was already perfect, watching me rise higher without her. One afternoon, I stood on the terrace outside my new office, 5 times larger than the one we'd shared. The view stretched across the city, golden in the sunset. I thought about the years I spent trying to make her happy, the sacrifices, the blind trust. Then I thought about now, peace, purpose, and power earned through pain. A journalist came by for an interview, asking, what was the turning point? I smiled and said, when I realized losing her wasn't a tragedy, it was an upgrade. The story went viral overnight. People loved the message, but for me, it was simply the truth. That night, I got a message from an unknown number. "You did it," it said. No name, no signature, but I knew it was her. I didn't reply. Some messages deserve silence. Some ghosts deserve to stay ghosts. I poured a glass of whiskey and looked at the skyline. Every light in that city reminded me of the lessons betrayal had taught me. Trust no one blindly, protect what you build, and never let love blind you to deceit. From the ashes she left behind, I built something unbreakable, not just a company, a legacy. And this time, no one would ever take it from me again. Because when you lose everything, you have 2 choices: stay broken or rise higher than before. I chose to rise. It was a quiet morning when she walked back into my life. I was in the lobby of my new headquarters, reviewing contracts, when the receptionist said softly, "Mr. Cole, there's someone here to see you." I looked up, and there she was, Vanessa, the woman who once shared my bed, my dreams, and my name. She looked older, thinner, and completely broken. Her confidence was gone. The expensive clothes were replaced with something plain, almost desperate. She tried to smile, but her eyes told the truth. Regret. "Nathan," she said softly, "you look incredible." I nodded, calm and collected. "I should," I replied. "I earned it." She followed me into my office, her hands trembling. I just wanted to talk, she said. Please. I leaned back, silent, letting her speak. She told me how Brandon had abandoned her once the investigations began, how she'd been blacklisted in every major firm, how the house, the car, the fame, it was all gone. All that was left was guilt. I lost everything, she whispered. I was foolish, selfish. I thought I was smarter than everyone, smarter than you. I stared at her for a long moment. There was a time when those tears would have broken me, but not anymore. You didn't lose everything, Vanessa, I said quietly. You traded it. You traded loyalty for greed, love for lust, and now you've learned the price. She reached out, tears streaming down her face. Can we at least start over, as friends? Her voice cracked. I almost felt sorry for her, almost. But then I remembered the sleepless nights, the lies, the humiliation. I stood up, walked to the window, and looked down at the city that I'd rebuilt from the ruins she left behind. You know, I said slowly, when you destroyed us, I thought revenge would fix everything. But it didn't. Success did. Peace did. And now, I don't need to hurt you to win. I just need to walk away. She stood there, frozen, realizing the man in front of her wasn't the same one she'd betrayed. She whispered, You're really done with me, aren't you? I turned to her and said, I was done the moment you signed your name on those papers. That was your ending. This is my beginning. She left without another word. As the door closed behind her, I felt no anger, no pain, no satisfaction, just closure. I poured myself a glass of water and looked out at the skyline again. The sun was rising, bathing the city in gold. That's when I finally understood. Revenge isn't about destroying someone else's life. It's about rebuilding your own so beautifully that they can never touch it again. And that was my final reckoning. This is how my wife betrayed me. Should I forgive or move on? Tell me in comments. If this story inspired you, hit like, share it with someone who needs strength today, and subscribe for more real stories of betrayal, revenge, and redemption.